I will now introduce you to a wonderful new concept that gives you the ability to make decisions based on conditions you define. Conditions are tested with a so-called if statement. So suppose you wanted to do something if a certain condition is met and not do it if the condition is not met. So basically in English, if it is true, then do this. And that also means if it is not true, then do not do this. So that's basically what we're trying to do here. So in computer speak, we still use the same word if. And the condition that we want to check then goes into parentheses right afterwards. We'll leave that open for now. So if the condition is true, then we open a curly brace and a closing curly brace automatically appears after we hit the return button. And there's a room now for instructions. And these are instructions that will be executed if my condition is true, and they will not be executed if the condition is not true. So let's just put something very simple here. Something like printf condition is true. I am executing this line. And so what is it that makes a true condition? Well, it turns out it's actually easier to talk on what makes a false condition. So false is anything that is zero. Zero always means false in C, or 0.0 means false if we're dealing with decimal numbers. Whereas true is anything that's not zero. Anything, so all values that are non-zero. So 1, 2, 3, positive, negative. Anything that is non-zero counts as true. Let's go check this out. Let's put in a number that's not a false value. So 23, for example, would count as something that is true. So if 23 in C, that means true, then we should print this condition is true. Let's check it out. So let's compile this and run. And indeed it says condition is true, I'm executing this line. So let's double check if we actually were to replace this 23 with a 0, which we know means false, then we expect this condition to not be true and this line not to be executed. So let's compile again and run. And indeed nothing happens in the terminal window. The program executed without us seeing anything because no printf command was actually executed. And so indeed 0 stands for false and anything non-zero stands for true. Now we can also use a variable instead of this number right here. And that way it'll make it easier to change a condition at runtime. So let's declare a variable and let's say we use the variable weather is good. And for now, let's give it a value 0, so the weather is not good, so that we can imitate this condition that we were just working with. We can now replace the 0 inside the if statement with a variable. Weather is, did I misspell that? Edit. Weather is good. And the condition will check whether the variable weather is good has the value 0 or a non-zero value. So if we now run this code, compile and run, again, nothing gets printed out because I only print out something if weather is good is actually true, but currently it has the value 0. So let's change that. Let's give it a non-zero value, for example, 99. That means actually the weather is good. And now my condition should be printed out, but let's not print out condition is true. Let's print out the weather is good. So let's compile and run. Indeed, it says the weather is good. But I'm going to go even further. I want to show you that you can have multiple executable statements here inside these curly braces that only get executed if the if statement is true. So how about I say, I can go outside. Hey. And let's compile and run. And indeed, it says both statements now. So these if statements are great to very quickly have your program behave one way or another way based on the value that a variable has. Now, it would also be nice if there was another case here. So if the weather's good, then we do this. But how about otherwise? If the weather is not good, maybe I want to print something else. Maybe I want to print the weather is not good in the other case. So in the next video, we'll learn how to have an else statement that goes along with an if statement.